Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Perspectives. I'm your host, Patrice Bobo-Miles, and I am so excited today for my next guest. And I know I said that about all my guests, but I'm like really excited about this guest. I met Miss Donna on Clubhouse, and we actually went to a live event, and I had the opportunity to spend, I don't know, 5 minutes in her presence at that event. But we have continued to grow a friendship over Clubhouse, which who'd have thunk it? I have a great deal of respect for how she moves, what she's doing business and in her business and in her life. So, Donna, I know that's like a big buildup, but would you give everybody just a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Patrice, it's an honor to be here with you today. So thank you for allowing me to sit down and kind of have this conversation with you and share with your audience. So I'm Donna Page. I am a long-term real estate investor as well as a lifestyle designer and strategist. What I do, Patrice, is I love positioning myself and helping others to position themselves to create the lifestyle of their dreams. And primarily, I do that by utilizing various real estate investment strategies. So, lifestyle is incredibly critical to me. Real estate is my passion, but I recognize that it is just a tool and one of the indicators and opportunities for us to create wealth for ourselves and for others. So, I'm just a girl who loves real estate and loves living well.
There is nothing wrong with that. Anyone who knows, I've said it before, I've been involved in the mortgage industry for 26 years. I recently retired. And everybody's like, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I'm like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And Donna's the perfect person to kind of have this conversation with, because if I am not mistaken, if I'm understanding this correctly, when you say you are a lifestyle designer and strategist, what you are saying is that you help people design the life that they like.
That is it in a nutshell. That is it in a nutshell. And you know, Patrice, it's a fluid thing. It's not something that has to be set in stone because life is, certainly a journey. It's
Mhm.
something that you can create for yourself, but also pivot as times change or as your circumstances change. And so I just help people to kind of, figure out where they are, figure out where they'd like to go, and then we put together a plan of action to get them there.
So I got a question. When you are working with your clients and helping them with this lifestyle design, does real estate almost always feed into what that plan is, or are they going off in a couple of different tangents and you're like, okay, let's focus on where are your passions?
So because real estate is my passion and I know it inside out, I'm often able to provide some information for them if that's something that they'd like to utilize, but it's not for everyone, right? Not
Mhm.
everyone has the temperament to invest. Now, I do believe that there are opportunities. So even if people want to be completely hands off, we have REITs. There are a lot of other avenues that they could take within the field. But no, it's not for everyone. We recognize that, and we certainly want people to live the life that's most comfortable for them. But because real estate is my baby, I'm always pushing or at least exposing people to the different avenues within that particular field that they could utilize to get them there. And usually it's an issue of money, right?
Mhm.
So either cash flow or net worth. And there are so many opportunities for people to utilize real estate in order to bring those things to pass. So not always to answer your question, but oftentimes we're
Well,
able
and
to lead them
it's
to that.
interesting because both of us know that in order to build, and I like to call it sustainable wealth,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That real estate is a valuable part of what that looks like. We've coined the term generational wealth,
Mhm.
and that wasn't really a term like as commonly known as it is today until Black people really started to coin the term, because there wasn't necessarily that handing down of the real estate, of the assets, of a lifestyle
Mhm.
to, the generations that came after us, really, right? And what did it take to become prepared for all of that? So tell me how long you've been doing real estate and where primarily do you feel comfortable, as far as investing?
Sure. So, I always say I grew up in real estate. My dad owned real estate. My grandparents owned real estate. One of the things that my grandmother would love when, she told her story and told us the family history, she would always start with saying, we come from a land owning family, right? So that was something that was incredibly important to them coming out of, the Jim Crow South, owning land back in Mississippi. That just was something that was important. So on one side of the family, I always heard, it was poured into me that it was important to own where you live and to own a piece of dirt someplace. I didn't have that experience on the other side of the family, but we'll probably get into that a little later. So I would say that I've always known that it was important. I purchased my very first piece of property at 19, not necessarily knowing a whole lot, just knowing I needed to have something, and got that refund check from, from school, the one student loan time I was able to apply for some funding. I got a piece of money, decided to invest in a condo, rent out. This is in the 80s, right? So long before house hacking was a term, it was something that just made sense. I wanted to have some extra money. I bought a condo, rented out, actually 2 beds to two good friends who were always at my dorm. And that's how my real estate investment career started. I had no idea that it could be a career. Right. I didn't call myself an investor. I was just buying someplace and wanted to get their $300 a month back then to fund my lifestyle. So, and that was in, 1989. So
you use the term house hacking.
Yeah.
So I have people who've tuned in and know, and I may have some new listeners. So, what is house hacking, and how does that really help you to build investments?
So house hacking is it's a real estate strategy that we use to, you will actually purchase a property and then you will rent out spaces in that home. So it could be, extra bedrooms or, a garage or whatever that looks like. And you basically utilize your primary residence as a opportunity to increase your income. So you're just acting as, you're subletting a part of your property, or if you're the owner, of course, then you're just renting out a part of your property. It really is an incredible way to build wealth quickly, to increase your income, your net income, and decrease your expenses, which is really a critical part of building wealth. So I often suggest that people consider house hacking. We oftentimes say, oh, I want my own, and that's fine, but that does come at a cost. And so when we're young, and I always say your friends are always over anyway, you might as well take advantage of it. And rather than going out and renting from someone else, having roommates, why not just put that down payment down and then you become the landlord yourself? So that's house hacking.
Well, we're in a rising rate environment, right? Yeah. And so as well as a rising rate environment, we're also in a rising purchase price environment. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to speak a little bit to what that is and how it is still beneficial to invest in this market, because there are so many people who, whether they want to purchase a primary home as a first-time home buyer, or they're thinking about getting into investing. Do you mind just kind of talking a little bit about that?
Sure. So let me just start by saying that whether you rent or you buy, you're still paying the debt service on that property, right? So you might as well be sitting in the ownership seat, because believe me, even if you're renting, you're still covering someone's mortgage. You're still paying the interest on that mortgage. You're still covering all of the cost of the expenses. You're paying, for it on a month-to-month basis, but you're still paying for it. So at the end of the day, what we really are looking at is, what are our opportunity costs? What are so generally, if you rent a home, generally, I would say 9 times out of 10, it's almost always less expensive to utilize a down payment or a down payment assistance program and get into it as an owner. You're just your expenses are lower. Plus you have the control of, again, being able to arbitrage or house hack or do other things in order to create additional income. And there are a lot of different investment opportunities. So there are different products like the DSCR loan, where you can buy a property that has more than one unit. Let's say
I'm getting ready to stop you, right?
Yep. Okay. I'm sorry. Of course, I'm going to.
No, and I'm only going to stop you for this reason. You've mentioned two terms,
Yeah.
arbitrage
Yes.
and DSCR.
Yes.
So I'm going to back you up just a little bit. What
Certainly.
is arbitrage?
So arbitrage is actually utilizing someone else's property in order to make additional money. But I like to tell people you can arbitrage your own stuff, right? You don't have to. So, again, it's sort of the same thing as house hacking, but it's kind of the newer, sexier term. And I find that the millennials will actually understand it a little better. So you can take your own space, you have control of that property and utilize that for someone else to benefit from. They can pay you to benefit from that space. So it's basically a form of house hacking. I'm sort of bleeding the terms together, but it's a lot utilizing one space in order to create additional income.
I'm loving having this conversation because number one, we could break into all the acronyms and not think twice about it, right? Because it's so ingrained in what we do. And so that's why I'm slowing you down just a little bit because I know what DSCR is, but there may be those who don't. So if you don't mind, just tell a little bit about what DSCR is, and how you can utilize that to purchase property.
Absolutely. So let me just say that there are a lot of different opportunities and loan products that are available in the marketplace. Some of them are geared towards investors. And I'd like to, because that's kind of the lane I'm in, I like to talk a lot about opportunities to get into that lane. A DSCR loan is a loan product that is available. And I like it a lot for my millennials, for my students, or for people that may have non-traditional income sources. Because what it does is the lender will actually utilize the income of that property or the potential income of that property in order to qualify you for that mortgage. So for the example that I was speaking of, if someone were to look at, let's say, a 1 to 4 unit, let's say a duplex for the sake of the conversation, the lender would actually, even if you wanted to occupy one of the units, they would take the rental income of the second unit and add that, allow you to utilize that as income so that you can qualify for the mortgage. And in a lot of markets, there are a lot of markets where whatever that number is, it may cover the entire mortgage, which gives you the opportunity to basically live for free, to reduce your housing costs to either zero or very low. Now, what do you do with that additional income? We don't necessarily want to have lifestyle creep. It gives us an opportunity to invest more. And so that's how we end up growing our network. So DSCR, the acronym stands for debt service coverage ratio. And the debt service is basically the amount that we pay towards the loan or the mortgage.
So we're going to take a monthly payment, and let's say it's $1,000.
Yeah.
And you can generate $1,500 or $2,000 in income from that house. So we're looking at service coverage of 1 to 1.5. And if it's, 1,000 to 2,000, then we're looking at a 1 to 2 as far as the service coverage is on that debt. And it is an excellent opportunity to get into, to get your first investment property because the potential rents for that property can actually help you qualify for what that loan is, which is very different from traditional or standard lending for the most part, especially the amount of that rent that you're allowed to count, towards offsetting the cost of the debt. So it is a great product. It's a non-qualifying mortgage product. And I'm just going to, throw that in to sound like I might know a little bit about mortgages. And, it's funny when I first heard of that product, I'm like, what the, and then as I learned more, and there are a few cautionary things that I like to say about this particular product. If you have a lender who's looking to lend on a one-on-one, you really want to think twice about that because your service for that mortgage, your taxes and insurance they're going to go up every year. They just do. Typically, they increase. So you want to make sure that there is enough of a coverage or a buffer there to be able to, menopause and brain function.
Well, to mitigate your exposure, right?
Thank you. Exposure. Mitigate was the word. It was just like out there. It was just,
I see you.
thank you. Thank you for the rescue. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
what we do.
Listen, I was gonna say we tag team.
So it's a great product, but I listen to a lot of, um, I really have heard a lot of people that at this juncture there's just a lot of complaining.
Mhm.
And I mean, it is a tough market right now.
Mhm.
Whether you're looking to purchase a primary resident, you're looking to purchase investment property, you may be looking into commercial space. And commercial space typically is 5 or more units,
Mhm.
as it is. And so the market is not necessarily an easy market. So let's talk a little bit about why the market is not necessarily an easy market.
Sure. So, Patrice, the what's happened though is I think there's been a mindset shift. I
Mhm.
think that, we're coming out of this global crisis that was caused by the pandemic. And as a result of that, we've had, our financial markets have gone haywire. Everything has pretty much gone haywire. And normal no longer appears normal. But when we step back a bit and take a bird's eye view and look at things from a historical perspective, those of us that have been around for a while recognize that although the change has been jarring, it's really not outside of normal. It
Mhm.
really isn't.
No,
So
it's not.
certainly for people who became exposed to lending in this way or the market and they were just accustomed to seeing those 2, 3, and 4% numbers, to see an 8% is mind blowing. But for some of us who are a little further down the road, who lived through the 12 and 15 and 17% rate
Adjustable rate
interest
mortgages.
days, I like an 8% does not move me. And
Mhm.
the other reason an 8% does not move me is because I can go and I just closed on a property at right at 8% interest rate and put it on the market to rent, and it's rented. The
Mhm.
person that's renting it is paying the loan at 8%. So it doesn't really matter whether you rent or buy, you're still going to be covering that service. So it's really more a mindset issue, right? As long as so from an investment or even from a primary buying perspective, we do recognize that we can't buy as much in this environment as we could a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. The money just doesn't go as long.
Right.
If you borrow 500,000 at 3%, your payment is $3,000. At 8%, it's $5,000. So certainly for some people that becomes unattainable, and of course that's a ridiculous number, and they may not bear out. But the real point that I'm making is we still have to fall within what makes sense at the time. And
Mhm.
you still need some place to live. I always say you're still going to have some place to live. We may not have the aspirational dream home today, which is why we want to make sure that we are putting other opportunities for creating additional income streams in place so that we're not relying solely on our W-2 income or just on one stream of income. I don't want to, again, go too far in the weeds, but
Mhm.
I just want people to know that, the sky's not falling. This interest rate environment was jarring, but it historically really isn't uncommon or not normal. It just was a huge jump for us. And, I just don't want people to be afraid to jump in just because they see these numbers.
And obviously, if you're going to be getting into the investment part of real estate and you're underwriting that property, um, you are taking into consideration what the rate is.
Yes.
And that becomes part of what your decisions are as to
Yes.
whether or not you can obtain or charge the
Yes.
rent that you're looking to charge to provide that monthly cash flow.
Yes.
So I guess, you've heard me say this 100 million bajillion times, but the market is what the market is. And
Yes.
when you decide that you want to buy, you're going to buy in what the market gives you.
Absolutely.
And, if you have these grandiose ideas about buying that mini McMansion,
Mhm.
you might have to reset your priorities for just a little bit. They call it a starter home for
Yes.
a reason, right? Even in investing,
Mhm.
I always hear multifamily, 5 or more units, get that 12 unit property. But you know what? It's okay to buy that 4 unit.
Absolutely.
Because you can turn an income on 4 units, just as you, and you can probably turn the income a little quicker if you're just starting out on those 4 units and grow to what the 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 unit properties look like. So what I have seen in the years that I've done this, and jumping into investing myself, is that you have to give yourself the time to grow. You got to crawl before you walk. You got to walk before you run. And I see a lot of mindset where we want to be born and then we want to take off running.
Mhm.
And so we want to skip all the steps that are in between what that
And
is.
Patrice, here's the other piece that I've noticed, and listening to even the larger podcasts and things of that nature, I hear a lot of investors who are thrilled with we have a 50 unit and we're making $100 a door. Ma'am, Miss Page isn't getting out of the bed for $100 a door. I'm not
Right.
answering my phone to have 50 toilets going bad, 50 complaints about people parking in your parking, So cash flow, I'm known as the cash flow queen for a purpose, and it ties back to lifestyle. You have to underwrite these deals so that they make sense. And sometimes the larger projects really can kind of put you in the hole, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Those are, you have the a higher number of just complaints and issues and customer interactions, but also when that roof needs to be replaced, if there's a fire, God forbid, or something happens, it's happening on a much grander scale, right? So I really like to encourage people to get your feet wet, start small, but with the higher cash flow numbers, so that you can acquire, you can have more income in order to invest. So once you're ready to start moving up to you go from a single family maybe to a duplex, maybe to a fourplex, and then you kind of you've had some time, you kind of understand your own personal temperament, and understand where your investment lane is, then we start looking at going into the larger multifamilies. But also you're better positioned to make better decisions, right? You're able to kind of cherry pick, and you're not just taking something just because it has a large number of doors. I sit back and I listen and I laugh, because I know people that they have, let's say, 100 doors in their portfolio, and that's a wonderful thing, but they don't even make 6 figures. So that's just a whole lot of work, in my opinion. That's a whole lot of work for very little return.
Right.
And then I know other investors who have literally a tenth of that, who are cash flowing better than they are. So
Right.
I always say, don't get caught up in the number of doors. Let's really underwrite these deals in a way that is sober and smart, and make sure that cash flow is where it needs to be.
Right. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to ask you a question that you can answer or say, or you can dance around it, and that's fine either way, whatever it is.
I think
But
I
I'm
know
going
what
to
the
ask it
question
anyway.
is.
Roughly, how many doors do you own?
So that's not really a conversation that I have, and I'll tell you why.
And I know it's not, but there's a reason I'm going there. So just give me whatever your answer is.
Sure. So what I will tell you is that I invest in 9 states and 4 countries, including the US. So 3 countries outside of the US. I have a very robust portfolio, all the way from what I like to refer to as the hood house, the best house in the hood, but a hood house,
Right.
to some, really nice, sizable executive properties. Literally from coast. Well, I was gonna say from coast to coast. I don't really do New York anymore. We're out of that market, but across the country. And again, I am a widow, so I'm a single girl out here dating, and
Right. That part. I have to say that was nicely done, because I knew you weren't going to give me a specific answer, but there's a reason I wanted to open that door. There's actually a reason I wanted to
I
open
know.
because you don't just, buy and sell and manage properties all day. You have responsibilities that you have to take care of at home. I believe they include a young daughter.
Yes, yes.
And like a lot of us in this generation, we're in the sandwich generation, where we've got our kids on one side and we've got our parents who are aging on the other. And so you're raising your daughter, and you're also taking care of your elderly parents while you're investing all over the globe.
Yes.
So how do you find that balance? Because I know that that's part of what your lifestyle design is about.
Absolutely. And, it really is an honor to be able to do so. So, I always tell people, 3 years ago, I have a place in Mexico. I was living literally in Mexico, living on the beach with my phone and my iPad and kind of running things, really ramping down. I was on the active path to retirement. I was ready to turn over the portfolio to professional managers and just kind of veg out on the beach until God called me home. I mentioned that I'm a widow, lost my husband 7 years ago now. We had an incredible lifestyle together and just was, I was cool with just kind of hanging out, right? And life happened. This app came across my consciousness, Clubhouse, and I got excited about real estate again. And so it got me back into the mindset of working. So, but I'll tell you that I believe that God is very intentional because it started bringing me back to the States. And
Mhm.
once I came home, I was able to see, my parents, they're still active, but they're aging and I probably need to be more available. And then there were some things that happened in life where I knew I needed to it was good for me. I chose to step in and provide full-time care for a niece that I adore. And, everyone calls her my mini me. She is my niece biologically, but I care for her full time. And it's an incredible honor to do so. But it was a choice that I could make, right? Because I designed a life that was flexible and fluid. And it hasn't always been easy, Patrice. I don't want to pretend like it's a bed of
No,
roses.
no.
I like being able to pick up and go. And now I have to remember, oh God, this kid has school. We can't just go away. Well, we have gone away for a week here and there. We just figure it out, right? We pivot, we try new things. So for me, structure has been incredibly important. Having a really clear calendar. My workday begins at 10 and ends at 3 because when she walks through the door, I want to be fully present for her. I've chosen to move into a multifamily with my parents. They live in a separate unit. I have offices in a part of the building, and then we have our living quarters in another part of the building. So I'm available for them without, without us having to intermesh our lifestyles too much. And it's been incredible. But I recognize that it's a privilege. It is a lifestyle that I've designed for us, with their help, of course. And as things change, I pray that we will continue to be able to make decisions that make sense for all of us. So we're not nothing. There's nothing set in stone. We just do what makes sense at the time. If that
No,
is.
it makes perfect sense. And I am of the school of, money does not buy you happiness, but it does buy you opportunity and
That's
choice,
it.
right?
Yes.
Options,
Yes.
opportunities, and
Options.
choices.
Yes.
And as we get older, um, the freedom of being able to have those opportunities and
Mhm.
those choices are priceless.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, I was talking to my daughter the other day. I have a 27-year-old daughter. I have a 33-year-old son,
Mhm.
and I got a text on Sunday night. It's like 10:45. Are you awake? And I'm like, oh, yep. Can I call you?
Mhm.
Sure.
Yes.
you know, and so we're having this conversation, and she had a really rough week last week with work. She put on this huge event, and so she probably wore about 20 hats with very little support.
Mhm.
And of course, it was successful. I mean, she's my kid. Um, but she calls me on Sunday and she's like, I'm exhausted. And I'm like, I bet you are. And this week, she has a really hard week this week. And so one of the things that I told her is, I know, because I remember where I was at that age. I know how important you think it is to push, 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 push. But I really need you to stop a minute, take a breath, and make sure you're taking care of yourself.
That's right.
Not a lesson I knew back
Mhm.
then,
Mhm.
but back then that's how I operated. And as I got older, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second. And that's really when I started to think about how do I want my future to look?
Mhm.
What do I want that to look like? And I retired after 26 years in the business, and I was asked the question, well, how are you going to do that? You're not going to get your Social Security check. I'm like, you know what? Society doesn't get to decide when it's time for me to go.
That's, that's it.
Society does not get to decide when it's time for me to make that pivot.
Yes.
And so, my husband was like, please make the pivot. He's like, please.
Yeah.
And so being able to have the choice to do that, I'll say, could we be a little more financially stable before I made that? Absolutely.
And
But
that's
the
okay, right?
right. But the beauty of it is, with the experience I have, with the passions that still drive me, we're going to be okay.
Yes.
And so, there comes a part, and, this so plays into your lifestyle design. There's always an opportunity to make the changes
Mhm.
to get the life or the lifestyle that you want to have. So
Absolutely.
when you have somebody come to your door or knock on your window or send you that email or text or whatever, and they are at their wits' end, because you get really tired spinning the plates and then running back to the front to make sure that you're still spinning the plates. What does that kind of conversation sound like initially?
So, one thing that I always encourage everyone to do is dream your biggest dream. I like to sit down and, really ask, what does your ideal day look like for yourself? What does that look like for if they have a family, your children, with your family, your husband? Tell me about what you'd like to see, where you'd like to see yourself in 5 years. And when you really give people permission to dream, not based on what your paycheck looks like today or how your kids are behaving, but just open your heart, open your mind's eye, and let's talk about what that looks like and what it feels like. Once we put that on paper and then we have a real honest conversation, Patrice, about where we are, oftentimes it really is an easy road, believe it or not, to get from here to there. What I found is most people are living reactive lives. They're just reacting to whatever stimulus shows up in their environment, right? They're doing what they're told to do or what's popular. They're not really choosing their way through. And so that initial conversation is often us literally sitting down and just giving that person on the other end of the line the opportunity to vocalize their dream, to give voice to their dream. And I did write a book, and I have a program called Life by Design, and it's an executable plan to help people to design the life of their dreams. And so we usually, when I'm working with clients, we just go through and do different exercises. It literally is, we talk about how you want to look. We talk about how you want to live. And oftentimes, it's not necessarily about changing your address, it's changing your habits. So there are very clear and executable things that people can put into place in order to get from point A to point B. Yeah.
So if somebody wants to connect with Donna Page, what is the best way to do that?
So they can always reach me. I have a 10K card, so d10k.com. You'll find all of my socials there, direct line. My phone number is there, my email, donnapage@chiclifestylebrands.com. Generally, emails and text messages are the very best ways to contact me because phone calls sometimes get missed, but I'm more than happy to sit down and have a conversation with anyone, whether it is on designing the life of their dreams or if they're interested in becoming a real estate investor. We also offer coaching, training, and mentorship around that. So we do 12-week cohorts. People are able to join a coaching group and learn how to become long-term investors. We don't really do a lot on the short-term side, but the buy and hold side, I love, love, love to teach that and help people to create generational wealth that way. So definitely hit me up, d10k.com.
I am so pleased that you accepted my invitation to be here today. I've loved the conversation, and man, we have covered a lot of stuff. So it is my hope that if you are interested in reaching out to Donna, as far as maybe having a discussion about investing or designing your life and your lifestyle and stepping into some of what that coaching and mentorship looks like, that you don't hesitate to reach out to Donna. And what I want to leave you guys with today is what I always leave you with. Your day is what you choose to make it. So it is my hope that you will choose to make today a great day.
Thank you, Patrice.